Hi, this is Vaida from RSpace, and I'm excited to share RSpace Inventory for the first time with the world. The purpose of this video is to give you a quick overview of the features in this initial release of Inventory Alpha, and we will be making new videos for each new release of Inventory Alpha. You can access all information regarding inventory in the RSpace Inventory Hub, which is linked in the description below. It includes links to access Inventory Alpha yourself, access documentation, provide feedback and contact us, as well as viewing the development roadmap. The inventory roadmap shows which features we have already implemented and which ones are upcoming. We will be updating this board as we move towards a beta release in mid-2021. Keep in mind that since inventory is still in alpha, it is not yet ready for real-life use and only has a limited number of features implemented. As a result, you can use the roadmap to check information about which features have already been implemented, or view the release update in the Inventory Hub to see which features have been implemented in the newest release, as well as links to documentation. Also, as alpha is still in development, do not use it for actual real-life sample tracking just yet. Okay, that's it for housekeeping. Let's jump right into the features of this first release, but let me show you how to log in and sign up first. By clicking on this link, we are redirected to a sign up page. Let's fill in the details required. The sign up code is mentioned in the Inventory Hub and it is Inventory 2020. Let's click on sign up. Signing up will directly log you in, and you will be greeted with an announcement that will provide you with links to the Inventory Hub, the documentation, and the roadmap. Now, if we close the announcement and click on Inventory in here, we'll be greeted with an empty inventory. So let's start by creating a sample. Create sample. Let's fill in a name and add an image. Now let's select template. We can also specify an expiry date and the source of the sample, whether it is lab created or vendor supplied. Now we can fill in the actual fields of the template. So for example, the antigen value and the peptide value. Templates can also have checkboxes or radio fields. And it will be possible in the future for you to create your own custom templates with the fields and values that you want. You can also add a custom field if, for example, a template does not provide a specific field type that you want. For example, concentration. Let's set it to a number. Let's click on Add Field and let's set it to 0.05. And we can always go into the field settings to change the name or the type of that field. Now we can specify how many aliquots we want the sample to have. So for example, 10, and each aliquot should have 2 milliliters of quantity. And we're going to store this at ULT frozen temperature. We can also add a description and some tags. And let's save. Our sample was created and we can now affect it using a variety of actions. If we scroll to the bottom, we can see all of the subsamples and we can click on a subsample to view it. We can add notes to subsamples if, for example, we want to remember that a specific subsample has been used in an experiment in a specific way. We can see all of the siblings of the subsample, that is, all of the other aliquots that are part of the sample on the left side, and we can click on this breadcrumb link to return to the sample view. Any location with a checkbox can be used to perform an action. For example, on the left-hand side here, we can select the bacteria and choose whether we want to duplicate it, move it, or delete it. We cannot split it as we can only split subsamples. Similarly, we can go into the subsample view here and select a few subsamples and then perform actions on them as well. Okay, we've created a sample, so now we want to create some containers so that we can actually place the aliquots into these containers. So let's go into Create and Container. Let's give the container a name. There are 3 types of containers: list, grid, and visual. Let's go through each one. For a list container, you don't need to specify any details, and you can just click Save. The list container will display the contents in a list. Let's see this in action and click on our bacteria sample. Scroll down to the subsamples and select a few. Now let's click on Move. We can now select the container we've just created and submit to confirm our move. Let's go back to our containers and click on our container. We can see now that the 2 subsamples have been moved. Let's create another type of container, a grid container. For a grid container, you want to specify the actual grid dimensions. And now you can click on Save. You can see now that the grid is displayed, and you can also view the container as a list. Let's do the same thing as before. Let's click on Samples and click on Bacteria and scroll down. Note that we can already see that the 2 previously moved aliquots have their location indicated in this column. This allows for easy navigation, as we can click on that container link and jump directly to the container. What is more, if we click on the specific aliquot, we can see in the breadcrumb link that this subsample is part of the bacteria sample and is placed inside of the container. And again, these links are all clickable, so you can easily navigate around inventory. Okay, let's go back to our bacteria and select a few aliquots and click on Move. When we select the grid container, we have to then actually specify which locations we want to use. We can click and drag to select, or click and drag to deselect, or click specific locations one at a time. Again, we click Submit. And if we go back to our containers, we can see a preview image of those items, and we can click on them to make a context menu appear, and we can operate on them. Finally, let's create a visual container. Let's go into Create Container, Visual Container. Now for visual containers, you'll want to add an image. If you scroll down, you can click on Edit Image if you want to, for example, crop it or resize it, or even change its saturation or colors. And now let's click on Edit Locations to specify a few locations. We can click to add the locations. You can see them appear on the left. We can click and drag to change where they are. And we can also click on Remove to remove them. Let me close this. And now let's save our container. Now we can see that similarly to the grid view, we have some locations in which we can place items, and we also have a list view. Let's move some aliquots for a final time. Let's click on Bacteria, move here, select a few, click Move, go into Visual Container, and now we can select 3 locations. We again can click one by one, or click and drag to deselect and select, and click Submit. Now if we go into our containers and view our visual container, we can see a preview of the items that we have added, and we can then click on them again to make a context menu appear and take actions on them. And we can click and drag to deselect. Some containers can also be placed inside other containers, so we can just select the visual container, click Move, and move it inside of our list container, and click Submit. The breadcrumb of the visual container is now updated to show that it is contained in our list container. Now, breadcrumbs are not the only way to navigate inventory. You can also use the search bar. For example, I can search for bacteria to see all of the items which have bacteria in their name, in their description, or in any other of their fields. We don't see any results because we are viewing containers, so our filter is currently set to containers. We could go into the search options and change it to samples to view all of the samples that match this search query, or subsamples to view all of the subsamples. Again, we can see the exact location of all of these subsamples. If you want to save our search to return to it later, we can use this icon and our saved search will then be saved here. Another feature I wanted to show you is our smart warning system. If we click on grid container and decide we want to delete it, we'll get a warning. If we expand it here, we see that the issue is that our container is not empty, and so the system does not know what to do with the subsamples that are currently contained in the grid container we want to delete. We can use this icon to actually jump to the container in case we are not viewing it. We can select the subsamples, move them into a different container. And now that the grid container is empty, we can click on the retry button to perform the delete again. And we are told that the container is successfully deleted. And if we click on containers, we can see that that is indeed the case. Finally, I wanted to show that RSpace Inventory works very well on mobile as well and has been designed with mobile first principles in mind. So let me show you what moving some subsamples looks like on a mobile device. Let's click on our sample. Let's scroll down and select a few subsamples. We can use this drop-down menu to see more options, but we're going to choose move. Let's choose container and let's choose submit. We can now navigate to the containers and see which subsamples have been moved to it. So that's it for now. Hopefully this video was useful to you. If you want to access RSpace Inventory yourself, make sure to check out the RSpace Inventory Hub, where you can also email us if you have any questions or encounter any bugs, and you can also follow our development roadmap. Thank you very much for watching and hope to see you in the next one.